I really like the Massachusetts. This ship has long been my absolute favorite ship in World of Warships. It's had some nerfs over the last couple of years, unfortunately, but I think it's still easily one of the best tier 8 ships in the entire game. Having this fast cooldown heal plus really strong main guns and decent secondaries is just really nice at this tier. Sorry about my internet cutting out during this game. There's not really much I could do about that, as Starlink was cutting out during the match, and unfortunately, even the replay file saves the stutters like that. So at least I didn't get kicked to the main menu, so I didn't get kicked out of the game and have to reload the match. But that, as a start, really shows some of the strengths of the Massachusetts. It's surprisingly accurate. Even though it has 1.7 Sigma, these guns are shockingly accurate when compared to other secondary battleships. Something like a Bismarck has 1.8 Sigma, and yet these I feel are much more accurate. And obviously that's because Sigma is not everything. But the other thing that we get over a Bismarck, as you can see there's one on our right, is overmatch. We can overmatch through this Baltimore where the Bismarck can't. And having 406mm guns, just so comfortable at tier 8. It's really nice, allowing you to get through a lot of cruisers where the German battleships don't get to do that. Although, to be fair to the Bismarck, his secondaries are getting full pens all over this Baltimore where we are not. Our secondaries actually don't end up doing very much damage in this game, despite us getting a lot of hits. It's mainly about fire damage. Although I do end up having my secondaries focused on battleships a lot of the time, and of course, these 127s aren't going to do much in those kind of scenarios. We've managed to break through a little bit of this gap, but the enemy team has had a very strong push on the 1, 2, 3 lines. This map really comes down to getting control or stalling out the decap and preventing the massive push through the 1, 2, 3 lines. At least we didn't get stuck in this channel, as we get some of the best dispersion I've ever seen out of the Massachusetts, and of course, it goes short. But the way this map really works is this choke point on D. If it can be stalled and you get a push around the 1, 2, 3 lines, you lock the enemy team in and get a ton of crossfires and basically win the game. Fortunately for us, we managed to break through just in time to avoid those crossfires, or the vast majority of them that you can see the enemy Massachusetts and Richelieu will be getting. This time, though, the shells land true, and we get ourselves a nice dev strike to start things off on our hopeful defense of the enemy team's push. They got some pretty strong ships, and of course also have a ton of spawning. You can see the enemy DDs have gone completely into the south part of the map. This is something where I would think that we should easily be able to wrap this game up. It's really a big mistake to go chasing the enemy team into their own spawn. You're going to notice our Bismarck continues along that kind of path from our team, and it's not going to work out so well for him. And just like that, the enemy teams Richelieu and Massachusetts are doing the same thing. This is not really that useful in my opinion. It's ignoring the caps, and it's also putting yourself in the open. There's no real island cover in spawns, and that opens you up to a lot of crossfires and the inability to disengage. This Richelieu, of course, is going down relatively quickly to our team's focus fire. It's one of the biggest things that happens when you push into someone's spawn. You get focused down pretty quickly, as you're generally going to be a very close target. So for the Bismarck on our team and the Richelieu Massachusetts on their team, I really don't like those kinds of positions, but they can work. They can sometimes do a good job. Unfortunately for our Bismarck, their Gascon did a great job of kiting and flanking, making sure that Bismarck didn't really have much opportunity to do anything, which is why I came back south. I didn't want to continue pushing with the Bismarck, since I knew it would be a very difficult push and likely end in both of us dying. At the same time, our team really did need the support to help deal with that Richelieu, and you can see how the Massachusetts on the enemy team has been forced to go very far south, and that's opened up a little bit of a line for us to get towards the B cap. Even though we're up on points, we still are down on caps, so eventually the enemy team is going to get ahead of us, which in fact they do right now. We need to get into some of these caps. A great start to the match though, 100,000 damage in a Massachusetts in a tier 8 top tier game. That's really, really solid stuff, including even 3 kills so far. But we do need to play with our team if we're going to hope to win this one. So trying to help kill this Massachusetts, and I'm hopeful that my team can deal with the destroyers in the south with the help of our carriers spotting. At least that's my hope. I need to rely on some teammates here just a little bit if we're going to pull this one out. They've evened up the scores reasonably well. We were ahead on quite a few more ships than we are now, and us being forced to push in here is going to be quite tough since the Gascon and the Kiev have been opened up and are able to go anywhere they want to, focus on anyone they want to, now that our destroyer is also dead up in the north. So that's going to be a really tough crossfire going into the sea cap. That's what I'm trying to say, and yet we're going to go do it anyway. I've only used 1 heal so far on the Massachusetts. It's one of the massive strengths of this ship, is getting through those heals quickly. It's a very difficult ship to take down if you don't have the damage output to out-damage its healing. It's almost like a DPS check of the enemy team's ships, since these heals come back so quickly. It's one of the main reasons I love this ship so much. It's the overall tankiness when angled, combined with this fast heal. Having a small superstructure also helps a ton. That's one of my main issues with Georgia. In case you're wondering why I don't really care for Georgia, but I love Massachusetts, it really comes down to that superstructure size and having only 6 guns. I'm really not a fan of 6-gun battleships. Even though Georgia is extremely accurate, it's prone to just too much RNG for my liking, given there's only 6 shells in that reasonably good dispersion pattern. Massachusetts isn't amazing for dispersion, we just missed that enemy Massachusetts, but it feels a little bit better to me since I have that volume of fire to make up for that slightly worse dispersion value. I also really, really love the maneuverability on Massachusetts. The turning circle, it's incredibly tight, and this really makes this ship feel very easy and comfortable to play in these close island situations, dealing with potential destroyers rushing me, that kind of thing. I don't know where this Kiev is, and I'm not sure exactly what the HP this Kiev has as well. So we could see some torps coming through from our north, and in fact there the Kiev is. So having the better maneuverability, improved torpedo protection, that kind of thing over something like a North Carolina is really nice to have. And in fact, our secondaries on the Kiev get us a Confederate. Halsey giving Confederate means we have, I believe, a 20% better reload. That's going to be huge if we're going to want to carry through this game, since now we're very much down on ships, down on points, and we're only just barely even on caps. So there's a lot of work to be done yet in this match, and it looks like the enemy DDs are getting through and potentially trying to kill our carrier and this Harlem as well. The Gascon getting crossfires down south as well. It's not looking so good, so it's really time for me to do something. And we finally connect with the Massachusetts, bringing us up to 150,000 damage. We're gonna have to deal with the carrier, but at least the Massachusetts has these heals. We can heal back some of that unavoidable carrier damage that we're going to be taking in the next couple minutes. That's my last salvo into the Massachusetts. I have to hope that's enough to kill him, since I need to go deal with this Gascon. A battleship on that level of HP is no joke and going to be very difficult to deal with for our Mogami and our Harlem, and even our carrier, who is pushing up the 9 line. If he gets spotted out there, it's going to be very easy for a battleship to kill at closer ranges. So I need to go try and deal with this guy. And, of course, not get rammed. If I get rammed, well, that's our main source of tanking HP off the board. So I really need to avoid that, but at the same time, apply enough pressure that this Gascon can't just run over the rest of my team. It's a very close match right now, and you can see our Lightning is actually going for the B cap, which is huge, because we need desperately to get another cap. The enemy Kiev going for D. Hopefully, our team will be able to deal with that. I can't push out much further, risking torpedoes, and of course this ram with the Gascon. And in fact, it's possible I've pushed a little too far already. The Gascon is very, very fast, And of course, he's very capable of closing this distance since I don't have any overmatch. I think I was let down a little by dispersion there. The Gascon was definitely giving us enough broadside that we could cheek him. I know the cheek is traditionally a term reserved for the Yamato, but these French battleships, and even German ones to a certain extent, have turtleback. And that turtleback at the very front, near the front turret, leaves a tiny little triangle that you can get a shell through and citadel someone. Unfortunately, in this one, we are not able to quite do that. At least on the first salvo, I think it was dispersion. This second salvo, he was just too angled. That was auto bounce territory for 32 millimeters of armor. And oh boy, he's coming in quick, and we gotta avoid the ram. Ramming means the loss of this game, guaranteed. So I'm gonna try and back up and use this island to hopefully cut off the Gascon's approach angle. We take out his front turret so that we can go a little bit more broadside safely to try and get around this island. Sometimes around islands, it's possible to get people to not understand exactly the turning radius of their ship, and that could result in them missing the ram. That's what I'm hoping for here, is this Gascon misses the ram. Again, going for the turrets, hoping that I catch the turret and knock it out so that I can go a little bit more broadside and sneak my way around this island. And it's seemingly working. I do think the Gascon probably could have got a ram off if he tried. So I'm not sure if he was trying for a drive-by or not. But whatever the case, we managed to actually pick him up with our final shot here into him. That secures our Kraken Unleashed. We've already got a high cal and Confederate this game. Really solid stuff, and Massachusetts really does perform this well a lot of the time. It's just a very versatile, tanky, impactful battleship. It's really, really good. Unfortunately, though, it actually wasn't enough to win. The enemy carrier was so far away that I never got to see him, and the enemy team picked up yet another cap on us. So we lost on points at the end of the time limit. So nobody got to 1,000 points, which was really cool. It means we had a very close 20-minute game, and the enemy team came out on top on this one. But we tried, and Massachusetts really performed quite well. As for the commander of the Massachusetts, I'm running Halsey, getting that extra Confederate bonus, as you saw. Not quite enough to win the game, but it is still a good time when you proc it. It's very, very impactful. Running secondaries, of course, trying to get the most out of them. At these lower tiers, you can definitely do work with them, given that they have a decent range of 11.3 kilometers. This is still pretty solid at tier 8. I'm also running basics of survivability, emergency repair expert, and of course fire prevention. I've given up concealment and also adrenaline rush in favor of a tankier build, trying to live that little bit longer in those close range brawls. I think adrenaline rush is incredibly powerful as well as concealment, but I've decided to go a slightly different route. The cool thing about these builds, of course, is there's so many different options that there's bound to be one that suits you the best. I am also running damage control system mod 2, sacrificing a bit of maneuverability in favor of, again, more tankiness. Unfortunately, though, about these builds, well, I want to try and swap them around all the time, so that means I am oftentimes redistributing. So if you look back through the ages of Massachusetts videos on this channel, you'll notice there's quite a few. I like this ship. But you'll also notice I tend to swap the builds around all the time. So try and experiment, find something that works for you. This is what I'm running right now, but it'll probably change in the future. That is the Massachusetts, of course. It's unfortunate this ship is not easily attainable anymore, but if you can get your hands on it without gambling, I definitely recommend it. It's a ton of fun and probably one of the best brawling battleships in the entire game at its tiers. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.